Hi, I'm Adele Sheasley, a nervous system regulation specialist. Essentially, what that means is I use several different modalities to help calm and reorganize the system. Currently, I am the only MNRI core specialist here in Charlotte, North Carolina, one of a few transforming touch practitioners. I also happen to be a nutritional therapy practitioner and have many other different training which you can look at on my website, in which I pull together to help support everyone, which also helps me be a family wellness navigator. Now, I first got into this work because of my children's challenges. I did not know how profound this was going to be for me personally. I had done years of traditional talk therapy, but I couldn't talk myself out of my overreactions. And what I understand now is that our subconscious is in control most of the time, and we often don't know what or why we are responding to our environment in such a way. And until we can calm down the nervous system, then we will not be able to get that cognitive control. And so this has made a huge difference in my life besides my children's lives. And what I'm going to share with you tonight is the difference in the way I approach working with adults compared to how I work with children. So how will nervous system regulation help you? Well, it can help calm anxiety, bring down overreactivity, chronic stress, which keep in mind that chronic stress is suppressing the immune system, setting us up for other health challenges. And when we bring down our overreactivity and our anxiety, it's going to improve our communication patterns in our relationships. It can also help with neurological challenges such as Parkinson's, MS, beginning of dementia, and help slow those things down. Overall, it helps improve the immune system because the nervous system and immune system are actually just two sides of the same coin. So this helps with autoimmune and other health challenges, along with helping to release the trauma that is stored in our body. And why does this make a difference? Well, as I already mentioned, we cannot talk our brain out of reacting to the environment. Our lives are controlled by our nervous system and our subconscious, and they keep a long history. And unless we go in and help show the nervous system and the subconscious that you are now safe, even though cognitively we know that, but often we are reacting from a protective standpoint, then we will continue in this pattern because our cognition cannot override our subconscious brain. So what I do is I use several different modalities to help calm, reorganize the nervous system, release stored stress and emotions in the body, and help you stay more in the present to access your full capabilities, along with increasing your stress resiliency. So here's my starting point with adults. Now, it will vary and everything is individualized, but my two main modalities are called MNRI and the other Transforming Touch. As I mentioned, I have many other different modalities that I pull from. But for most people, unless we discuss something and decide to do a different approach, I'm going to start with MNRI and a particular area of it called neurostructural. Now, MNRI is very comprehensive, and there's way more to it than what I'm going to cover tonight, but I'm going to focus on the top things and the semi-typical order that I follow for adults. So neurostructural has to do with the misalignment in our body that has occurred from chronic stress. We don't notice that when we get triggered in different situations, our body's doing these little tiny micro movements that we're unconscious of. And that repetition slowly brings us out of alignment. Well, when we're out of alignment, our nervous system can't run as efficiently, effectively. It does start to affect our posture, the way we carry our bodies. And so then that's going to create other stress in our muscles. And all of this is going to drain our energy and all of our abilities. So with neurostructural, what I do is I go in and first show the body how to release from these chronic protective patterns. When I'm doing this, this also happens to release any stored stress hormones and emotions that are there. Now, sometimes people will have some reactions from this, and that is kind of like a detox of those stress hormones and emotions. depending on how someone responds to this initial input, is going to greatly influence the direction that I take and the pace that I move along with things. But this is usually my starting point. As I mentioned, as I'm doing the neurostructural work, we're releasing stress hormones. So that's one part of it, because we can technically store stress hormones everywhere in our body, even in specific reflex patterns. And they can be influencing our emotions and the way we handle, things. But there are also very specific stress hormone lines that our body has a tendency to hold on to the stress hormones. And so I will also help the body flush and move those out. As I already mentioned, the stress response of our body influences how we hold our body and those different compensation patterns. So while I'm doing neurostructural work, I'm usually weaving in additional stress hormone release. One of the core principles of MNRI, our main goals, is to help bring a sense of safety to the body. And one of the main ways we do that is using neurotactile work. So we have 11 different cells, sensory cells in the body, and different types of touch will help activate different sensory cells. And so we are using this work to help those different sensory cells communicate more efficiently and effectively to increase that sense of safety into the body. So this is something that I will always be incorporating into every single session, no matter which direction we're going. As we're working on these sensory cells, it also helps improve what's called our proprioception, which is understanding where we are in space, and this increases the sense of our body. In today's world, we get so busy in our heads that we are often very disconnected from our bodies, or just what we're so used to doing and being, we don't realize how much stress and tension we are carrying in our bodies. So this will help improve our body awareness so that we can again help calm and feel more comfortable and safe in our bodies. This also happens to help move the lymph movement, which will also help flush those stress hormones that we're releasing from the other things, even though that's not the primary goal, and I'm not going to say that I'm any kind of lymph specialist. It just so happens that if some of these techniques do also help to move the lymph system, and that will help improve our detoxification overall. MNRI also happens to have a very specific trauma protocol. Whether you've experienced a big T trauma or a series of little t traumas, or even just chronic stress, which builds into the body as equal to a trauma, we often have very specific reflexes that come in to help us handle those moments. So what the MNRI protocol does is it goes through a series of reflexes and archetype movements in a very specific order to help us release from those initial reflexes the stress and emotions that were stuck there and move our body into that sense of safety so we can live more from the now than from our reactions of the past. As I've mentioned before, this is something I'm always keeping people aware of and watching, is often people will have that detox or that neural reorganization reaction. Doesn't happen to everybody, doesn't happen every time, but because of that, I typically will move in a slow manner. So I won't just jump in for most adults and just do the full trauma protocol, because that often can just be too much release at a time, and now you've got to go back to work, handle kids, or whatever else in your day. So I am again learning your body as we go along and figuring out at what pace is best for you to move through so that we can get the release without it also becoming a stressor, so that we can more quickly and easily come to that sense of safety. You've heard me mention reflexes several times at this point. Assessing the primary and lifelong reflexes is actually the center of MNRI and typically is my beginning point for children. The reason why this is not my starting place for most adults, again, it can be, but I don't feel that if I just focus or start out with a heavy focus of the primary and lifelong reflexes, then without releasing the stored stress and protection in the body, then we're not going to be as effective. We're not going to get as far as quickly as we can. But so let me first start by saying, what are these primary reflexes? So our primary reflexes is the innate genetic coding that's within all of us that determines the movement patterns that help with our neural development. Each of these primary reflexes, and then we also have lifelong reflexes, have specific neural pathways that help us with the physical, mental, and emotional aspects of our lives. So as I'm working with an adult, I will notice specific reflexes, and we may add work on to that. And sometimes I will give you some techniques to work on at home to help support those reflexes. So something to help with auditory overwhelm or visual overwhelm, for example, or something to help with your memory. Now, as we get through releasing all the trauma and stress hormones and getting you to a more resilient place, then I will get more specific in looking at these different reflexes. We will be working on some of them. They are part of the other protocols. And again, because they often not only help us with those basic daily tasks that we do with our memory, our focus, attention, etc., but they also can help us handle a situation. So sometimes the specific reflexes have stored stress hormones and emotions in themselves. So again, as I'm going through the order of these things, this is kind of a general, everything is interwoven, but this is usually where I start right away with kids, but I don't go very deep into these reflexes typically with adults for a little bit. Now, the auditory and visual system is an area I might actually start working on a little bit sooner than other reflexes, because of course we are just inundated with auditory and visual information, especially in today's world of the devices. Our auditory and visual systems are getting more and more overwhelmed, that they're having a harder time discerning through the different input that it's getting. And so that has to do with being able to put things on the back side so we can focus at what's in front of us. But that, again, is just getting extra challenged with the way the devices are changing so many things for us. And something that's different about MNRI compared to other visual programs out there is that we work directly with the cranial nerves. So many other visual programs particularly are going to be focused on a lot of tracking types of activities, and it's asking the brain to do something where the neurological wiring isn't completely connected for. So by doing techniques that are directly working with those cranial nerves, we can help strengthen the auditory and visual systems more quickly. And luckily, this is one thing that is very easy to do on ourselves, and so it may be an area that I bring in sooner than later for a lot of adults. The MNRI basal ganglia protocol is very interesting. In general, the basal ganglia helps with our overall motor control. However, what I really love about this particular protocol is how it helps us, again, with further emotional regulation, especially when we're talking about either executive function or anxiety, OCD type challenges. During the ages of 2 to 4, we're doing huge neurodevelopmental leaps. And there are 7 different emotional stages that we are actually working through. Now, the line between some of them is very small, but we do have these little nuances to them. And if for whatever reason there was too much stress during one of those phases, or something just kept us from completing that stage, we can get stuck in this more emotional dysregulated place. So I see a lot of additional beautiful changes for people, especially in reducing anxiety and OCD type behaviors with doing the basal ganglia protocol. Most of us don't realize that our birth experience greatly influences how we handle life. First off, were you C-section or vaginally born? If we're C-section, then our body and our nervous system missed all kinds of different input to help trigger different neural pathways and primary reflexes to begin their process, and it's influenced our whole neural development. Was there a birth trauma also of the cord around the neck, or a vacuum being used? Was the delivery super fast, or was labor extremely long? There's 4 different stages that a baby goes through as they move down the birth canal, in a very specific order of reflexes to get us to move down the birth canal. And of course, we don't know what anybody's experience has been, through that process, even if everything looks like it had gone smoothly. So doing a rebirthing, we are replicating that order of those specific reflexes in as smooth and easy, consistent fashion as we can to give a nice steady input to the nervous system. And this is a great way to help kind of just reset the nervous system overall. Our experience has influenced our different learning abilities, how curious we are, our decision making, our memory, how much we are motivated or otherwise. And it also plays a different part of our attachment style. And we're going to talk a little bit more about attachment style in a moment. But it is a beautiful way to help just bring a new piece into the body. So I just finished highlighting the top areas of MNRI that I utilize with adults. Now, there is way more to MNRI, and everything is completely individualized per person. So I may be pulling from a completely different order or different areas, or we may even begin with transforming touch, of which I'm going to share with you now. This is my other main modality. As I go through MNRI, became a more centered, grounded, less reactionary, more in the present, more aware and safe in my body, I found that there still felt like there was something missing. I still couldn't allow myself to completely connect and be vulnerable in my relationships. And that's when I learned about attachment styles and how transforming touch can help heal our attachment wounds so that we can have better connections and better interactions and communication with those around us. So for the first 3 years of our lives, how our nervous system learns to regulate is off of our caregivers. And our caregivers cannot give what they weren't given. So even if they were very attentive people, if they did not have good, secure attachment with their caregivers, then they can't completely give that to us. Now, of course, actions definitely play a big factor. We now understand that the idea of a baby learning to self-regulate by being left alone and crying it out is completely false. All the baby learns is that those that I rely upon are unreliable, and I need to learn to take care of myself. So that stopping to cry is really a giving up. And this is then an attachment wound. So transforming touch helps to heal those attachment wounds by working on finding safe co-regulation. So it's like the client's nervous system is essentially kind of borrowing the regulation of the nervous system from the practitioner and learning that that is safe. So the first few sessions of doing transforming touch is just the nervous system finding safety and trust within the other's nervous system, because that is a big underlying aspect of this issue with the co-regulation, is that we didn't get enough consistent. And so we're trying to show the nervous system that you are here, you are being supported, and this then helps improve co-regulation, which then helps improve self-regulation, and it helps to heal the attachment wounds and can even help release some of the other stored stresses and potential traumas within your body. It's a very simple system of holding certain places along the body for a specific consistent amount of time. After we build on that PACE protocol and get that connection of safety between the nervous systems, then we do different enhancements, which it has to do with different parts of the body and also reflexes that we bring into this. And I found that this combination, and often with people, I will start doing this in combination of MNRI. Again, this is always going to be individualized to where the person is and what their needs are. MNRI and transforming touch are my two core modalities. As I've mentioned, I pull from many different modalities, and I just want to mention one fun thing that I do called a brain reset. So every thought, feeling, action we have and do has its own specific neural pathway. And when we're trying to do things differently, the problem is that we already have a strong big neural pathway for the way we're used to doing things. And we decide we want to do things differently. So right away, a new neural pathway is born. But now we've got a little baby working against this giant. And it's like this battle is going on in our head. And of course, who's going to win? But the neat thing is movement grows the brain. So if we develop an intention or goal and then add specific movements to it, we help that neural pathway grow more quickly. So we go through a series of movements to help secure this initial neural pathway, and then we'll pick one anchoring movement for you to continue to do, and it's like doing your bicep curls, those extra repetitions for it to continue to grow to help it develop more quickly and easily. Now, the one important thing is that we have to make sure that this statement is in a positive action form, and you have to believe it and connect with it. So if you've tried basic affirmations in the past, you say, I am this or that, and you haven't really noticed anything, well, that's because when you're saying I am, your brain is saying, no, you're not, you liar. And our brain won't attach to what it doesn't believe. So a lot of times we'll use transitioning words. I'm starting to. It's becoming easier to. And we work on this together until we find the right statement for you that you're like, yes, that's it. And it's just so much fun to see how this helps accelerate the different things that we're working on in our lives. So the optimal you approach is a holistic approach. MNRI, transforming touch are my two center modalities, but I pull from many other modalities. I just mentioned the brain reset, but there's a lot more that will take too long to go over. And we talk about what's right for you as we're going along, and I'm getting to know you and your needs and your goals. I do also look at lifestyle patterns. How we eat, we sleep, of course, greatly affect all of these things. As you will see on the website, I also have a background as a personal trainer, nutritional therapy, yoga instructor, many different things to pull from to help round out everything for you. And so we can also get into more coaching along the way where we look at the entire lifestyle. And this can be for you individually, and also we can discuss this further for your family. I do work virtually besides in person. Virtual, we just have a little bit of limitations because there are some aspects of MNRI that cannot be done because it is more hands-on. So the center of the virtual work typically is the transforming touch, but then I bring MNRI movements and many other of the different modalities in there as, again, is appropriate. So, but if you're not local, we can still make large, progress on helping you to become more regulated. If you are local, but maybe sometimes you want to save a little travel time or something, it's a great way to help complement or, fill in. When you can, in person is ideal because then, of course, we can do, everything in all aspects. And we can, again, discuss what is the right approach for you. So when you're ready to get started, just send me an email and we will set up an initial conversation to discuss how we're going to approach things for you. With adults, as I mentioned, I don't do a formal evaluation, as I just jump right in, start with that neural structural, typically learning about your body, and from there figuring out the directions that we're going to go. If we're doing virtually, we'll have a larger discussion, begin with a transforming touch, and again pace it out and figure out the direction. So I look forward to supporting you. Please don't hesitate with any questions. Take care.